Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about this article in Indian Express, which is called "Make It Farmer Friendly." So this article talks about the export policy of India, how it has been throughout the years. It compares the export quantity in 2004 and 5, and then the next decade in 2014-15, and then compares it with the 2022 and 23. Thereafter, it talks about uh, how these export prices and the policies are affected. There are two factors mainly being mentioned here, and thereafter it talks about specifically with respect to rice and also with onion, the how the these things export are controlled by the government. And there in the end it also talks about how to improve the trade competitiveness of the Indian agricultural products, so that they are more competitive in the market, international market, and also in the domestic market, so that it plays a good investment uh, in relation to the farmers income, so that the farmers income are improving. And there is also a simple short analysis of the how the export policy has been. And it mentions that the export policy has a consumer bias, means the policy is inclined towards a bit more towards the interests of the consumers as compared to the interest of farmers. So let us start with this article. So initially it mentions, as I previously said, that agricultural exports touched $48.9 billion in 23-24, which is a registering an 8% decline from 53.2 in 22-23. So this is significantly shorter than the ambitious target that we have for 60 billion by set by the government for 2022. And there is also, it mentions that it has not increased a lot over the previous 10 years. It mentions that from 2014-15 to 23-24, in absolute terms it surged by over 8.7 billion dollars to a whopping yeah 43.3 billion dollar from 2004-5 to 23-13-14. It increased by over a 43.3 billion dollar to a 43.3 billion dollar, which is a world jump of almost 500% from 8.7 billion dollar in 2004 and 5. And from there is only a 20% during the UPA government, dropping an annual average growth rate of 20% during the UPA government to a meager 1.9% to a during the 2014-15 to 23-24. So there is something also mentioned later about why these exports increase or decrease in the way they do. So it is important that the in the export market, agriculture export basket, which is valued at about $10.4 billion from 16.3 million tons. Maximum is from the rice exports. Then there are marine exports in fisheries sector. Then there are spices, there is bovine meat, and followed by sugar. Indian agricultural exports are influenced by two main factors. One is how the global prices of agricultural produce are behaving, and second is how liberal our agricultural export policy is. So this article talks about how to have our policy in line, so that the farmers are the main beneficiary and the exports are increasing. Indian exports, whenever it mentions that whenever there is a fall in the prices, uh, our trade competitiveness suffers whenever in the international market. So we are able to export less whenever the prices are lower in the market, international market. However, whenever the prices are higher in the international market, we are exporting more because we have slightly more competitive or lower prices in the market. So we are able to export more whenever there are higher prices in the market. So a part of decreased export during the 2014-15 to 23-24 could be blamed upon the decreased agricultural prices. Also, Glad Mountain agriculture suffer, as was the case with the 5 years of Modi government, first 5 years of Modi government. Beside global dynamic prices, there are export restrictions and outright in relation to the export policy. There are export restrictions and outright bans on the sensitive agricultural commodities like wheat, rice, sugar, onion. Lately, have significantly impacted the agricultural export, and these are done mainly due to the concerns of domestic food inflation. So the policies are mainly uh, towards inclined towards the interest of the consumer. The consumer should not be in disadvantage. That is why these export restrictions are made. So there are few mentions of the export restrictions, being that the wheat exports were banned on May 13, 2022. There are followed by restrictions on the sugar exports in June 22, and July 23 export of non-basmati rice, which we all had read somewhere at least. There is 20% duty was imposed on the parboiled non-basmati rice exports, and there is also export restriction on rice offer valuable policy lessons. That is, whenever there is, because India has a significant share of rice exports in the international market, so whenever India puts some restrictions in the international market, it leads to increase in the prices, because the demand is the same but the supply is lower, so the prices increase. So whenever at a later in a few months, when India decreases, when India liberalizes the exports, rice exports, the farmers will have beneficial, will will be in benefit because of the increased prices. So there is a mention about the trade theory that an optimal export tax to ensure that the marginal revenue from the additional export should not fall. Now there is some analysis saying that a prudent policy option would be to impose a 15% export duty on the common parboiled rice alongside lifting the outright export ban. So instead of this ban, there should be a 15% cap on the export. In case of rice, it is mentioned that which is 65% irrigated. There are concerns relating to depleting groundwater, as I initially mentioned, especially in the Punjab and Haryana belt, because 3 to 5,000 liters of water is used for irrigation to produce only 1 kilogram of rice. So roughly half of this water seeping back to groundwater, it mentions that exporting 16.3 million tons of rice effectively means exporting 32.6 billion cubic meters of water, which in the 21st century is where water is going to be a scarce commodity in the near future. So it is very important to check on these exports as well, which result in an overall net export of the water. These exports essentially means that we are exporting water to some other country who would have to use their own water to produce the rice. So whenever the export restrictions or export policies are made in relation to rice, they should also consider this factor. Essentially, true export competitiveness hinges on boosting productivity. So it talks about how to improve the trade competitiveness. It mentions that it hinges on boosting productivity and achieving more with fewer resources. The goal demands significant investment across agriculture, including research and development, seeds, irrigation, fertilizer, and adopting resource efficient farming practices like precision agriculture, fertigation, and these strategic investment can drive down per unit cost, which will enhance the global competitiveness and improve the farmers' profitability and thereby their income. It mentions about the case of onion is unique. Government announced opening up of its export just before the polling in Maharashtra put a high MEP on 40% export duty. It talks about the export policy with relation to onion. They are deprived of the export commodity opportunity that could have lifted their domestic price, where the farmers were unaware of the high export prices, and in the domestic market the prices were very low. So all this shows that the government policy, in the end it mentions that the government policy has a consumer bias interest, is more inclined toward the interest of the consumer as compared to the farmer, so which implicitly discriminates against the farmer. So it mentions that we need to change this attitude if we want to increase or augment the farmers' incomes. So this is the end of the article. I hope you like this one, and if you have any comments, put them in the comment section. Thank you for watching.